welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing an end of the year book haul. I only posted one other book haul this year. It was back in like the summer. I basically spent this year trying not to buy too many books or acquire too many new things. I'm not ever trying to like go a whole year without buying a book. Like, that's just not realistic. But I am happy when my TBR doesn't grow exponentially, and somehow in 2022 my TBR did not grow exponentially. I don't know if it was because there just weren't a lot of books coming out that I was super interested in reading or that I wanted to own, or if it was because I used my library more, which I definitely did this year. I think it was a combination of a lot of things that just kept me from really spending too much money on books, which makes me very happy. So today I'm going to be showing you the last, essentially, of the books that I bought in 2022. I have 11 books to haul in this video, and I think in my previous book haul this year, I only hauled like 10 or 11 as well. So somewhere between 20 and 22 books is all I brought onto my TBR this year. And like I said, I did end up reading a majority of the books that I bought. So I'm super happy with that. Of these 11 books, I have already read 3 of them, so I'm gonna start with those first, and then I will show you the rest of what I've got. I've got Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. This is Sally Rooney's debut novel. I have read all of her books now. I read Normal People last year and I loved it. I read Beautiful World, Where Are You earlier this year and I loved it. And so I decided it was finally time to buy and read Conversations with Friends. And unfortunately, this one just really missed the mark for me. Even though it is essentially the same formula as her other stories, there was something about this set of characters that I found incredibly detestable and made me not want to root for them or really care about their stories at all. This book follows 2 friends, Bobby and Frances. They do slam poetry or like spoken word poetry together, and one night they are performing and they are approached by this journalist who wants to do a piece on them for the magazine that she writes for. And through the course of this interview and piece that this journalist is writing, these 2 girls become sort of embroiled in this really interesting and unconventional marriage between the journalist and her husband. Like I said, it was fine. Like, it's still like a signature Sally Rooney writing style, and I still like overall enjoyed my time reading it. Like, I'm glad that I ended up reading her debut novel, but it just didn't really work for me on a lot of levels. Mostly the characters were just not my favorite. So this isn't a wrap up or review or whatever. You can go and watch whatever video I actually wrapped this book up in, but I will say that it just didn't really quite do it for me, unfortunately. Next up, I've got The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the 3rd and final book in the Inheritance Games trilogy, the original trilogy. Obviously, this author has now come out and is writing a companion series following some of the brothers in this series, but this is the final book in the original Inheritance Games trilogy, which is a book that I feel kind of took BookTube and BookTok and just the bookish internet in general by storm a couple of years ago, and then slowly let people down over the course of the remaining books. This follows a girl named Avery who finds out at the beginning of the first book that she has, for some reason, inherited billions of dollars from this rich man in Texas. She's never met him. She doesn't know anything about him. She's not really sure why he left his fortune to her, but she ends up going to his mansion, his home in Texas, and she finds out that she has to live there for a year and then all of the money will be hers. Along the way, she gets involved in some mysteries with the 4 grandsons of this man who are not super happy that this random girl has inherited what should have been theirs. And over the course of the trilogy, she just sort of learns what's going on with these people, and she figures out why she was selected, and she gets involved with these brothers in various ways. It is a really fun series. I will say that the first book is so much fun. Like, I loved it so much. It was one of those just couldn't put it down kind of reads for me, and I'm really glad that I ended up reading this trilogy because I do really love Jennifer Lynn Barnes and have really enjoyed books by her in the past. I liked the second book as well, though not as much as the first, and then this final book just really let me down in a lot of ways. I felt like there was just not enough happening for the first, I don't know, like 40-50% of the book. Nothing happened, and then the ending felt sort of rushed and not really well explained. I feel like all the questions that we had going into this final book were mostly answered, but then of course she sort of left the door open for future installments, which then she did eventually like say she's going to be writing, which I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm going to read the continuation series because I was so disappointed by this one, and I'm just not really sure if I want to keep reading books about these characters in the series. Overall, I do think it's a fun series, and I think that if you enjoy like really fast-paced, light, fun mysteries and you like YA, then this is something that you would definitely enjoy, but just go into it knowing that the series doesn't really hold up past the first book. Like, it slowly declines. So the first book's good, the third book is not good, and then the second book falls somewhere in the middle. And the last of the books that I have already read is one of the books that's definitely going to end up on my favorites of the year list, and that is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't think anybody is going to be surprised to hear that I absolutely loved Taylor Jenkins Reid's 2022 release. This follows a tennis player named Carrie Soto. During the 80s and 90s, she sort of rose to popularity and fame because she was just a completely like take no prisoners kind of tennis player. She rose through the ranks. She was the #1 tennis player for a long time, and she currently holds the record for the most Grand Slam wins. And at the start of the book, Carrie is a few years retired, and a new up-and-coming tennis player is threatening her title as the holder of the most Grand Slams of all time. So she decides to come out of retirement and challenge this player to earn the title that she felt like she worked so hard for. And I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. Carrie was such a fierce, independent, absolute bitch of a main character that I loved so much. I respected her, and I felt like she did a really great job of not compromising who she was while also becoming a better person along the way. I don't want to think about it too hard because then it makes me question my whole life, but I do think that Carrie Soto could potentially be my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book. So next up, I've got a couple of sequels to fantasy series that I started this year. The first of those is Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko. This is the second book in the Raybearer duology. I read Raybearer back in the summer and I really enjoyed it, so I got the second book and I am excited to read it. I was planning on finishing this series before the end of the year. Like I thought, like if I started a duology, then I could definitely finish it before the end of the year. And as we know, the end of the year did not turn out how I thought it would. I just didn't really read that much in the fall, so I didn't end up finishing this series before the end of the year, unfortunately, but it is high on my priority list and I do intend on reading it in 2023. This series is set in a fantasy world where the king or emperor has a court, essentially, that are their most trusted advisors, their most trusted friends. They take an oath and they join what is called the council, and they basically live and breathe for each other for their entire lives. And our main character, Tarisai, is given a task at the beginning of the first book to become one of the up-and-coming emperor's council and then to kill him. It follows her as she sets out on this quest to do something that she thinks is right, but then obviously starts questioning everything when she makes genuine friendships. And I really loved the complex nature of this magic system, this world. I really loved the intricate like political structure of this world and how political this book does, or this series does, end up getting. I am really excited to see where the series is going to go, given how the first book ended. I think that there is so much potential for this sequel, and I'm really excited to kind of find out exactly what happens in Tarisai's life next. I also have Jade War by Fonda Lee, which is of course the second book in the Greenbone saga, the first book being Jade City. I almost forgot. I almost said Jade Legacy, but that's book 3. This is an adult fantasy series set in the fictional city of Kekon, and Kekon is essentially ruled by 2 rivaling families, like mafia families essentially. And the main characters of this series are the Call family, these siblings that are in charge of the No Peak clan, and how their relationships with each other affect the dynamics of this family, and also how it affects the like politics of this city. The magic is centered around the use of jade. People can put jade into their skin, they use it for weapons. It essentially enhances their fighting abilities, their perception, just everything about their being is enhanced by the use of jade. I thought Jade City was a lot of fun, and I am really excited to keep going with this series. It's just long, and I just haven't really had the time to dedicate to another really long fantasy book this year, but I am really excited to read Jade War and then eventually Jade Legacy. Those are 2 books that are pretty much at the top of my priority list for 2023. I feel like I'm the last person to read the series because it did gain a lot of popularity a couple of years ago and a lot of people were reading it. I just didn't manage to get around to it until this year. And so I'm excited to read book 2 whenever I get around to it. Next up, I have a manga that I saw recommended on BookTube a few times this year, and it really intrigued me, so I ended up buying it off of Pango Books, and that is 5 centimeters per second by Makoto Shinkai. I don't really remember what it was about this story that intrigued me enough to want to buy it. I looked everywhere for it for a long time. It was one of those things, every time I went into a bookstore, I was looking for a copy of this book, and then eventually I just got it off of Pango. I really don't know what this is about, but I do remember people saying that it is kind of emotional, it makes them cry, so I'm excited to read it. I'm excited to read something that could have potentially make me cry. Next up, I've got One of the Girls by Lucy Clark, which is an adult mystery thriller that is set during the summer on a bachelorette trip, and it follows this group of friends who have been friends forever, and they go on this trip together, and then I guess one of them dies or something happens and some secrets about this friend group come out, and then I think they start getting murdered off. I really don't know that much about it, and it wasn't a book that I saw on BookTube very much. I think I saw maybe 1 or 2 people reading it. I'm excited to get to it. I haven't read it yet. I really was planning on reading it in the summer because I wanted to read it when it was like set, you know? I wanted to read it when it was like warm and sunny and everything outside. The summer just ended up getting away from me. I don't have to go too much into it. I've already talked about it probably in a million videos at this point, but I just wasn't focusing on reading too much. So I haven't read this yet, but it is still pretty high on my priority list, as are essentially all of the books that I'm hauling, because I definitely want to read more of what I'm buying closer to when I buy it. This seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. I really like mystery thrillers. I have been reading a lot more of them towards the end of this year, so this is one that I think that I'll probably get to soon. Next up is Sin Eater by Megan Campisi. This is a book that I don't really know too much about. I got it at Barnes & Noble back in like August or September when they were having some kind of like buy one get one 50% off sale. I do know that it follows a girl who, to pay for a crime that she has committed, she is sentenced to being a sin eater, which essentially means that she has to like take the final confessions of dying people in her village, and I believe that there might be some kind of mystery that comes out of that, or it's just about this girl sort of trying to find her way in a world that is looking negatively on her. I've seen some pretty good reviews for this, and it's not too long, so I think it's going to be a really good book. I just really liked the cover, and like I said, I was trying to find like a buy one get one 50% off thing. I picked out a book and I decided I needed a second one to like take advantage of the sale, so I got this and I'm excited to read it. The other book that I got during that buy one get one 50% off sale was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I got this because it was so popular on BookTube and BookTok for the entirety of the summer, and people kept saying that it was really similar to Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, which is one of my favorite books. This is about a woman who returns to her hometown after several years, and she reconnects with an old flame, obviously. I believe it is at the request of this guy's mom that she returns or something, and then they sort of reconnect and we get to learn about what happened to them and why they aren't together anymore. I bought it and I was really excited to read it because it was getting such great reviews, and then as soon as I bought it, I started seeing really bad reviews for it everywhere, so I didn't pick it up because I was really scared that I wasn't actually going to end up liking it. But I do have it and I will probably read it. I'll probably wait till the summer next year, but I bought it, so I definitely am going to read it. I just am a little bit more nervous about it now than I was initially. The next to last book I have here is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr, which is his newest release that came out, I believe, last year, and it finally came out in paperback this year, so I ended up buying it. This is the same author who wrote All the Light We Cannot See, which is one of my favorite historical fiction books. This one, I believe, is a little bit more fantastical, a little bit more like whimsical. I don't really remember too much about it, but I believe it follows people in different timelines and how their stories all end up connecting. I think it starts back in like the 1500s and moves all the way up into like the 3500s or something, like future times. I've seen really great reviews for it. I love the cover. I really love this author's writing, so I'm excited to get to it. I actually bought this at Walmart. I was at Walmart one day, and I always look at the books, but they never really have like a great selection at my Walmart, and then they had this one day for like 10 bucks, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy it now that it's out in paperback. So I'll get around to reading it eventually, and hopefully I will love it just like everybody else seems to. And finally, the last book that I have in this haul, the last book, not the last book I bought this year because I bought some of these other ones after I bought this one, but it's the last book that I'm going to have to haul in 2022, is Babel by Rf Quang. This is an adult fantasy dark academia sort of book that came out earlier this year and obviously was super popular. I honestly really don't know much about it. I bought it because I was trying to get it from the library and the hold list was really long, and so I was like, you know what, just I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it so I can read it immediately. And then obviously I still haven't read it because my life sort of went to shit in the last few months. I'm still very excited to read it. I did read The Poppy War last year or earlier this year. Time doesn't make sense, so I can't really remember exactly when I read it. And I liked it, but I didn't totally love it. So I haven't continued on that series, and I don't think I'm going to. But I am really excited to read Babel because it has been getting amazing reviews. I like dark academia, I like fantasy, so I'm excited to kind of dive into this. I really hope that it lives up to the hype for me. I kind of feel like it will, but you never know. So that's it. Those are the last 11 books that I bought in the year 2022. Like I said earlier, I'm really happy with the fact that I really curbed my spending and bought less books over the course of the year in its entirety. Obviously, I wish that I had read more of the books that I bought. Like, I made a more concerted effort, but I'm giving myself a pass on this one just because obviously, like, from July on, my life was so up in the air that I didn't really have a lot of opportunities to focus on the books that I wanted to be reading. So I'm very hopeful that I'll be able to get to a lot of these in the new year and that I won't continue to add more books to my TBR. I really think that I'm going to make a goal, or at least more of a concerted effort in 2023, to not add books to my TBR, but actually wait and purchase books that I end up reading that I really love. I did use my library a lot more this year, and so that's something I definitely want to do going forward, is focus more on like library books and stuff, and then I can buy books that stand out to me so that I have a shelf full of books that I absolutely love and wouldn't hesitate recommending or even lending out to people, rather than just collecting a whole bunch of books that are sitting unread on my shelf. Let me know down in the comments if you read any of the books that I mentioned in this video and what you thought about them. Of the ones that I have already read, did you have similar or different opinions to me? And of the ones that I haven't read, which of them do you think I should get to sooner rather than later, and which of them would you like to see me review? I'd really love to know that. Also, let me know some books that you got recently, or maybe a book that you're excited to buy soon. I'd really love to know that as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again in just a couple days. Bye!